And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, November 1st. We're kicking off a new month here today. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Easier day today. Just a 4-game NBA slate because we've got 11 coming tomorrow. That'll be a biggie. That'll take us quite a bit of time to get through. Before we do anything, though, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Could have used that Paul George day a couple days ago, but otherwise, I don't care about yesterday's slate at all.
Yeah, I would have preferred the Paul George day on the day that I played a ton of him as opposed to yesterday.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was pretty happy with how I played yesterday's slate, with the glaring exception of jamming in Jalen Smith and Miles Turner and the Indiana front court just destroying everything I did. But had tons of Markkanen, had a lot of Maxey, had a lot of Buddy Hield. Yeah, I was happy with what I did, with the exception of getting so much of those two.
only total fish would play a ton of Jalen Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one sucked. I didn't expect Sabonis to have a good game while also scoring less than 10 points. Like, if he just has like a functional offensive game the way that we've seen him, like he smashes. He had 16 boards, I believe. Useless.
Yeah,
Fucking
especially
useless.
with Fox out too.
I know. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about yesterday. It just annoys me. It was looking great at first. Like Sabonis had and when I say at first, I mean literally at first. Like Sabonis had a really, really powerful first rotation. Harden crushed out of the gate. And I was like, okay, those are two of my 3 most exposed players. This is a great start. It never got any better than that.
I think the peak for me was probably halftime when D'Anthony Melton had 3.5 DraftKings points and I just didn't have him.
Yeah, it didn't help me, but whatever.
He ended up being fine, obviously.
I don't have. It didn't make a difference, and with that ownership, it didn't really matter. You want to just get into this one?
You didn't have him.
Well, sure, but like he was different on FanDuel than DraftKings too. Like it wasn't as appealing in the end.
Yeah.
Let's just get into it. 7:30 tip-off tonight, by the way. 2 games at 7:30, an 8 o'clock start, and then a 10 p.m. start. But, 4 games. Let's get to the point. Let me just double-check to see. I'm feeling lucky. Fantasy Cruncher updated yet? Obviously it is.
Oh, nice.
Do you want to just filibuster for a little bit and get a crunch started?
That's what I was going to do, yeah.
Yeah, because I can't do that then, but I'd rather, it's not going to, we're going to be much better off if we could actually run a crunch and do this right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get at least my FanDuel crunch locked and loaded. So for anybody that had been waiting for it, FanDuel is ready. Yeah, I hope you like the, what did it end up being? 6 stocks for Dennis Smith Jr. And that wasn't even like the craziest stock day. Multiple people had 6 or 7, or I think Anunoby finished with 8.
Yeah, Smith had 6 steals and a block.
Wrong Smith for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. That was one spot that really hurt me because I didn't have a lot of him.
I did have a lot, but I mean, I had enough. Didn't make a difference because of everything else that happened. All right, so FanDuel Crunch is running. That's nice to see. I guess I could hit on pertinent news for today. Maybe that's something I could do to kill the time. Zach LaVine is expected to play. We got a Q tag on. They don't play today, do they? No, well, that's not helping me at all. Why is it showing me old ass news? I don't want to see that. All right. Chicago is complicated though. LaVine is probable, but Dosunmu questionable. Kobe White questionable. Doesn't seem like we're going to have Joe Harris today, but we do get Seth Curry back for Brooklyn. Ben Simmons, questionable, but expected to play, although he is legitimately hurt, so it's not just maintenance. Paying attention to that will be important. Jalen Suggs is questionable for Orlando. Him coming back would be obviously great, although I don't know how many minutes he could play. Jordan McLaughlin and Kyle Anderson, both questionable for Minnesota. Torrey Craig for Phoenix. For right now, it's pretty tame injury news-wise. Like, there's nothing heavy hanging in the balance, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, it's more so like bench roles, which a lot of the injury news today, I think on like a normal slate, you wouldn't even care about it. But today it could end up mattering. If Kobe White gets ruled out, you have to figure out, exactly how many minutes guys on Chicago are going to play. Does Patrick Williams play more minutes, stuff like that, with just being a 4-game slate. But yeah, knowing that Levine's expected to play, knowing Simmons is expected to play, both of those are pretty helpful.
Yeah, the only thing that sucks about Levine and Simmons is I just don't know how healthy these dudes really are. It appears the answer is not healthy, yeah. But I don't know really what to do with that sort of information.
Nothing is my answer.
Yeah, I agree.
Other than use the rates and stuff that they've been playing to.
All right, Crunch is almost done, and then once that happens, we could actually have real conversations. I'm guessing, and now, in fact, I know for sure something must be going on the back end for FC, because even this Crunch isn't running particularly fast, and a 4-gamer with 150% randomness on everybody usually zips through.
No, mine's going at normal speed.
Now, I feel like mine was going quite a bit slower than it normally does. I got 1,500 lineups in for FanDuel at this point in time. I'm going to call that a victory. I'm going to load that into my sheet. Apologies to anybody that was looking for contenders this morning. That'll get run after this strategy show whenever I get a chance to record it. But that's just sort of what happens when FC isn't up. Very reliant on FC. Thank you to Fantasy Cruncher. Great product. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean, I love using it. And I fail miserably whenever I try to use anything other than that. All right. Crunch is in. Ownership is in. Are you ready to start?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have mine done, but I normally don't, so I'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, I know that I could throw this to you with no information, and you'll be fantastic at just making up whatever you need.
And yeah, Chicago slowed down quite considerably now.
Yeah, when I got to 1,400, it was a lot slower than it normally is. Stokastic should just buy FC. I mean, I'm sure we'd love to. Chicago, 2-point dogs at Brooklyn, 233 total. Nets are on a back-to-back here. Let's start, I guess, on the Chicago side, obviously. We know that Levine is in, but Dosunmu, Q-tag, Kobe White, Q-tag, complicating at least a little bit here for this one. We're seeing DeRozan get to double-digit ownership on both sites, 25 on FanDuel, where he's 8,200, just 10 on DraftKings, where he's 8,500. Vooch, though, appears to be the prize. 7,800 on DraftKings, 30% owned. Seems warranted to me. 8,300 on FanDuel, also got to 20% ownership. And then you get Levine in the mid-sevens, who, if we know he's in, is more interesting. I'm getting to quite a bit of DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine at this moment. Basically double the field on all of those guys, except for Vooch. FanDuel, 8,300, a little bit different. But what are you doing with Chicago here to start?
Yeah, I think I'll get to a pretty good amount as well. DeRozan's a little concerning to me just because his usage rate has been down a bit this year from where it was last year. Obviously, I'm not just projecting him for 28% usage because that's what he's done this year, but he is lower than, a lot lower than the 32% rate he had last year. So that's a little bit concerning. Rebounding is down as well. So at 8,500 on DraftKings, like you said, getting 10% ownership, I think that's reasonable. He showed up 11 to 12% for me. Vooch looks great. Andre Drummond being out is a big deal for him. Not going to probably won't go overlooked today like he did last slate. Almost came through for me on Saturday because people just, I guess, projected him for his normal minutes, even though Andre Drummond wasn't playing. You got 36 minutes from Vooch in that game, barring foul trouble or blowout. I expect the same thing here. I gave him 34 minutes to try and account for that a little bit, but certainly can project him higher, for more minutes than you would if Drummond were in, just because Drummond isn't somebody that's going to just play 8 to 10 minutes a night. He's going to get those backup center minutes. But when he's out, they didn't even use a backup center last game. They just went to Derek Jones. Tony Bradley still didn't get off the bench. So Vooch should certainly get more minutes here. The price tag hasn't adjusted. He looks really good. And then Levine, I think, is pretty comparable to DeRozan. A little bit cheaper, doesn't project quite as well. Shows up, a decent amount of the time with it being a 4-game slate. But Vooch really looks like the priority here.
For a second, I thought you were going to say that you did project Vooch for 36 minutes. I was going to say, wow, that is aggressive. No. Not that I don't think that he could play it, but that you need a very specific game outcome. Because I went to 34 as well, and that felt right. And I was getting him, I think he's one of the best plays on DraftKings at 7,800 at 34 minutes. So 36 was going to be in everything.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think he's going a little bit over-owned on DraftKings. We have him at 29%. I have him being optimal about 24%, but that's still one of the highest chances of being optimal on the slate out of anybody. He projects really well. He's still going to show up in a lot of lineups for me, most likely.
Let's see. I'm running my DraftKings crunch right now. Vooch coming in probably somewhere in like the 26 range, something like that. So a little bit under-owned, or a little bit over-owned rather. I
Yeah,
don't know
not
what to do
enough
with
that
the
I'm expecting I don't get there, though.
I don't know what to do with the rest of this team. Like, if we assume everybody's in, I'm not all that concerned with anybody else from Chicago in that, like, nobody jumps off the page. I think Patrick Williams probably has the most upside, 3,500 small forward, power forward on DK. 4,100 on FanDuel makes it a little bit less appealing. What do you think you're going to be doing here with Patrick Williams, assuming everybody's in? Because he did see big time minutes this most recent game out.
Yeah, I mean, I went back to like 22 minutes, assuming everybody's in. That's
Yeah.
what he's averaged for the season. And if all of those guys are in, I don't think he necessarily needs to play a lot of minutes. But he is somebody that if anybody starts getting ruled out, I would certainly give more minutes to. He's not a great fantasy producer, but at 3,500, he starts to look like a good value if you can get him up to 28 to 30 minutes. But yeah, like you said, nothing else really stands out. You know, Caruso, if everybody's in, if Desunu is in, you're probably getting around 24 minutes from Caruso at 4,300. Nothing that I'm really excited about there. The Sunmu's at 5,400. He can certainly have one of those games where he just like magically accumulates fantasy points, which I still have never figured out how he does it. But I'm not going to get too much of him. You know, I have him in for 30 minutes right now. He just doesn't look like that good of a play. Kobe White, I can't get to if everybody's in. So yeah, it's pretty much just those main three and Vooch in particular as far as priorities go.
Let's say Desumu isn't in again. Are you going 30 plus minutes to Patrick Williams?
I'm not sure. Like I would get close to that, I think. I would also obviously give more minutes to Caruso and White if he's in.
Sure. Because Patrick Williams, like Desumu being out, will allow Patrick Williams to look interesting.
Yeah, like I think
because
I
of
would
that
probably
price
go to
tag.
30. I'd probably go to 30 on Williams.
Because he needs every minute he can get. He's a
Right.
terrible per minute performer, but at 3,500, like that value starts to become a little bit more interesting on a day like today.
Yeah, and like looking at last game where the Sunu was out and Williams got to 32 minutes, it is kind of reassuring for Williams playing time that Caruso played 35 minutes in that game. Kobe White played 21 and a half. Goran Dragic only played 13. So like you could maybe get a little bit more from White or a little bit more from Dragic, and that cuts into Williams a bit. But it's not like any obvious rotation piece just really didn't play much. You know, so I think, you know, maybe 28 to 30 on Patrick Williams.
I do think it's interesting. It helps, or at least it helps me mentally. On the 28th, when Levine sat out, you saw Kobe White get 30 plus minutes with everybody else in. Then with Desunu out on the 29th, you don't see Kobe White get those minutes. Levine comes back. You see that become, Patrick Williams / Alex Caruso. You can see sort of what they're doing there offensively or defensively, where they're not just shoehorning Kobe White in to the Desunu role where he becomes useless with DeRozan out on the floor,
Right.
with Levine out on the floor. So it does help that they kind of showed their hand over those two games to know what we should be doing if Desunu ends up out again.
Yeah, agreed. And it makes sense too, because Kobe White's game is not Desumu's game.
Right.
You don't need Kobe White playing a bunch of minutes alongside DeRozan, Levine, and Vooch. He's not going to be doing anything. And if he is, that's problematic because it means Levine, Vooch, and DeRozan are doing less.
Do you have any interest in Derek Jones?
Not particularly.
Do you think they go to Tony Bradley if something happens to Vooch? Like, if Vooch gets in foul trouble, then we do see a Tony Bradley rotation?
Probably.
Okay. Just trying to see the path on a 4-gamer. Like, is there, Derek Jones is the backup center. We have these sort of conversations for 4-game slates.
Yeah, and he's 3,100 and
not center eligible, which is probably the more interesting piece.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the path there. Like, if Derek Jones got to 20 minutes somehow, he's going to be decent. Rebounding rate, not surprisingly, goes up quite a bit too if you take all of the centers off.
Is there anything else we should be saying here about Chicago? They seem, if everybody's in, this is like probably the most obvious thing that you can get to. It's DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine, and then nothing else.
Yeah, and specifically Vooch.
Yeah, that 7,800 tag on Vooch with no Drummond is pretty damn tasty. And then we go to Brooklyn. What a weird team. So we assume Ben Simmons is playing today, but he is questionable. The expectation was he was supposed to play. We'll see what we actually get out of that. I lost my depth chart, which is quite annoying.
Kyrie Irving starts. Kevin Durant starts.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
That is what you bring to the table in this show. Just real low level knowledge. Q tag on Ben Simmons, probable tag for Seth Curry. The expectation is that we don't see Joe Harris. We won't know that officially until like 1 o'clock, probably. And then still no TJ Warren, obviously. Let's just start at the top. Do you prefer Kyrie? Do you prefer Durant? Do you prefer both or neither? Because they are owned equally on DraftKings.
I think it's really close. Like I have Kyrie projected 1.5 behind Durant, and he's $500 less expensive. Durant getting 16% ownership, Kyrie getting 16%. I do have Kyrie showing up as optimal more frequently, so I guess I would say I lean Kyrie.
I have Kyrie by I don't want to say a pretty significant margin in optimal. I do have their projections a bit different than yours as well, but yeah, Kyrie came out more optimal than Durant did for me. So I guess I would be leaning a little bit more Kyrie. These guys on FanDuel though, Irving 28% owned, Durant 22, Royce O'Neal 26, Ben Simmons 28. You're seeing O'Neal and Simmons both get into the 20s on the opposite side. I mean, like I don't find Kyrie and Durant all that interesting to talk about on this slate. Like it's a 4-gamer. You're playing them in some form.
The one thing I do want to point out with them is just how many minutes they're playing. Kyrie's
Kyrie in
averaging,
particular. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Kyrie in particular.
Yeah, Kyrie's averaging like 39 and a half minutes per game. And, you know, it is a back-to-back, so I didn't want to get too carried away. I did go 39 minutes just because I don't want to under-project the guy. But even their last back-to-back, he played 39 minutes and then 42 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know that this continues, but also we're just seeing it every single game. So I think it's kind of a mistake to just be like, oh yeah, 36 minutes for Kyrie, because that's not happening, at least so far. So that, you know, certainly is something that makes them a little bit more appealing, even as their price tags rise.
Yeah, I gave him 38. Not out of the realm that I go to 39 here. And that's what's really pinching. Like, that's what's making me like Kyrie more than Durant.
Yeah, I went 39.
They're very similar per minute, guys. In
general. I went 39 Kyrie and 37 KD.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have Durant as the highest projected guy on the slate. He's also expensive.
Not. I have
SGA.
Kyrie.
Got it.
But all three of these guys are you name the top three, and they're not exactly separated by a ton. So
yeah, so I have those three like separated by 1.5. Durant, then a point to SGA, then half a point to Kyrie, and then a 4.5 point gap to anybody else.
Yeah. I have Booker in the middle of that 4.5 point gap, but do you have Booker or Curry next?
I have Towns next.
Butler. You have Towns next.
Yeah.
Wow. I have Towns 10th. We'll get to that one.
I have Towns, Curry, Booker kind of as their own trio after those top three. Okay.
So it's like Royce O'Neal season today at 4,800?
Yeah, unfortunately. This guy's showing up a ton for me. And it's a playing time thing again. It's not that he's doing anything different from a fantasy standpoint than he was in Utah. Still a low usage guy, still averaging around 2/3 of a fantasy point per minute. He's just averaging 37 minutes per game, and he's playing a ton. So he just shows up. You know, he's somebody that I've been playing on bigger slates because he's not really popular and he's playing a ton of minutes. Here, I'm sure he'll be more popular because it's a 4-game slate, but I just don't really see a way around him. It's not a guy that I like playing. It's certainly not a guy I like playing when he's popular, but the minutes are the minutes. And it's just, you know, I saw his projection today and was just like, man, did I do something wrong? You know, I have him at 25 DraftKings points, but I have him at 0.7 DraftKings points per minute. I just have him playing 36 minutes.
I want to touch on this one. This is totally random, not even on this show or on this game. Adam Reckcamp said, with Drummond out, we expect Vooch's rebound rate to go up, right? Think about that in your head. How could Andre Drummond possibly affect Nikola Vucevic's rebound rate when those two men aren't on the floor together?
Yeah, no, you expect Jones's to go up because he's playing center, but it doesn't affect Vooch.
No, it can't. Unless Andre Drummond's pulling down boards from the seats while he's not on the floor together.
If anybody is, it would be him.
That's very true. Yeah, that's not how that one works. How do we project Ben Simmons?
I have him at a fantasy point per minute for
So do
32
I.
minutes.
So do I. So do I. I gave him 32 minutes. He's
Yeah, I
point
would
guard,
definitely
small
more than
forward.
32.
Point guard, small forward on DK. He's point guard, power forward on FanDuel. 6,400 and 6,800. His usage rate is gone, and I'm projecting it like that. And that's why I'm still interested. Like, I've got him in at 13% usage. I've got him in at 29% assist rate, 14% rebounding rate. Like, you can project his usage to be, he could be PJ Tucker from a usage perspective. And it's just it's the assist rate, the rebounding rate, the steals, the blocks to a degree. Like, he gets there with everything else. And I think at some point in time, we're going to see him be slightly more efficient offensively. I think it has to happen. I just don't think that he could be like a total zero from a trying to score perspective for the entire year without without Brooklyn just blowing up. I'm not saying he gets back, like he becomes a 19% usage rate guy or something like that again, but just at some point in time, I feel like he either gets confidence or he's hurt.
Yeah, so you're not saying that he has to get better necessarily. You're saying eventually he stops playing as much if he doesn't.
Well, like I think that they either like it either becomes a problem to everybody. Like you see more chirping in the media than just, Kyrie yelling at him to shoot the damn ball during the game, or, we find out that his back is an actual problem and he's just like not out there. I don't know. He's just like, I'm having trouble reconciling his scoring ability at this point in time because I just don't know what to make of him any longer. I have him projected like shit from a usage perspective, and that's all I can do. I'm still going to get to him. I still have 30% of him on FanDuel, but I think we're going to see him like mildly snap out of that at some point.
Yeah, and I think, from a DFS standpoint, I'm with you too, in that I'm not projecting him to score, and he's still looking like a pretty good play. So,
Right.
I'd be more concerned about, and that's always what comes up in chat when you start talking about Ben Simmons is, oh, he doesn't score, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's projecting him to score. If I projected him to score, I would have like 100% of him at this price tag. I'm projecting him to have a 13% usage rate, and he's still projecting for about a fantasy point per minute. So he looks good, even knowing the guy isn't going to score.
Nine real points, 8.5 boards, and 7 assists. I mean, he's Draymond, right? I think he's just Draymond with like
Pretty much.
not as good of a defensive awareness.
Yep.
He should be, like, in theory, a better Draymond.
I mean, in theory, he should be a much, much, much better Draymond.
Yeah. But, ugh. What do we do with the rest of these guys here? 5,800 for Claxton, 5,900 on FanDuel. We saw him get 31 minutes last night. Feels like a spot where people are going to overproject Claxton, but 13% ownership on DK, 16 on FanDuel at that price tag. A little bit over-owned right now. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I have him in for 26 minutes. I'm not super confident in that. I think it could be less. But he kind of just doesn't grade out that well for me. 13%, I guess, seems reasonable. I just finished my DraftKings crunch, so I'm seeing if the slate started right now, what I would have. But yeah, I think the big thing to keep in mind, obviously Claxton had the big game yesterday. That kind of pisses me off because I had a lot of him and still didn't have a good slate. But that was with Simmons out. Assuming Simmons is back today, I am not really interested in Claxton. I'd have 2% right now if the slate were starting. And I do think that you probably just see a little bit higher ownership today because of what he did yesterday. And the way they've been running their rotation, they're staggering him and Simmons. Simmons has been in the closing lineup. If you get Simmons in foul trouble or a Simmons injury or something like that, Claxton certainly can play more, and he's a good fantasy producer, but it doesn't appear that they are looking to play him and Simmons alongside each other a ton outside of starting each half.
Yeah. I didn't see Blake Wesley torn MCL out 6 to 8 weeks. Rough week for Spurs guards.
Yeah.
Yikes. Is there anything else that you could play on the Nets? Because to me, the answer is no. I don't think that you can go to Curry. I don't think there's enough minutes there. And then they're just playing like whack-a-mole to find random dudes. Sumner, Morris, Patty Mills, Day'Ron Sharp, David Duke, Cam Thomas. You never know who else is gonna get out there. But they don't appear to be given enough minutes to anybody outside of like random ass Yuta Watanabe games.
Yeah, all that I have exposure to is the starters. A ton of Royce O'Neal, a ton of Ben Simmons, decent amount of Kyrie. Not as much Kevin Durant as I would like. I kind of hope that goes up. And then, a very little bit of Claxton. But I don't expect Sharp to even be in the rotation, assuming Simmons plays. I'm not planning on going to Edmund Sumner or Watanabe or anything. So yeah, it's the starters.
All righty. Anything else for Brooklyn?
Nope.
All right. Schedule for the rest of the day. A lot of shows today. NFL Strategy Show First Look Edition coming up after this. 1 p.m., we've got the PGA Strategy Show. At 2 p.m., we've got the NHL Strategy Show. Then we kick it down 5:30 p.m., NBA Deeper Dive. Adam and I will be back for that one. 6:30 p.m., NBA Live Before Lock. 2 straight hours of coverage. It's a good day for live shows, man. 5 more hours worth of content. 5.5, I guess. Can't beat it. And hit that like button, by the way. I don't know what we're at. 89 likes, not enough. Hit that like button. Golden State Warriors, 1-point favorites in Miami, 226 total. I'm excited to talk about this one because I think you and I are on different planets for Miami. We'll start on the Golden State side where they couldn't look less interesting. 15, 14, 16, 16, 10, and 14 are all of the ownership numbers for the 6 guys that you would expect to hear numbers for. That's on DraftKings. They all look pretty similar. Some are like 2% overowned. Some are like 2% underowned. I don't have anything on the DK side that stands out to me. I like Clay for 5,500 on FanDuel, a shooting guard small forward, as my preferred option on the FanDuel side. But how do you pick between these guys on Golden State? Like, it's very hard for me to want to go to Curry if I can get to Kyrie and Durant.
So right now, I'm not really getting to any of the Golden State guys. If the slate started right now, I would actually have 0 Curry, which is scary, but not all that surprising to me. I typically don't play him a lot. Like 6% Poole, 3% Wiggins, 5% Green. The only guy from Golden State that I'm getting a lot of is I would have 30% Kevon Looney right now if the slate started. He's only projected for 12% ownership. He's gotten plenty of games this year where he actually gets fourth quarter run and substantial minutes down the stretch. I gave him 24 minutes. He's averaging about 22 for the season. But I think that there is upside there that isn't really being accounted for. And so I don't mind getting to him as a value option that isn't particularly popular. He's a good fantasy producer. He's 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute guy. So you kind of just hope to run into those minutes. So I am getting to quite a bit of Looney right now. But other than that, I have like nothing from Golden State.
I don't think it would be crazy if he got some fourth quarter run in this spot. The only time this year Golden State's defense isn't getting its ass kicked is when you have Draymond and Looney out on the floor, which, I mean, it's sort of one of those cases where if you think it could be a Looney day, it's probably not a Poole day because you're only getting one of those 2 guys, most likely. But I like that shout for Looney.
And for what it's worth, I mean, these guys played like a week ago. Kevon Looney played 29 minutes. He was in the closing lineup instead of Poole. You probably need Golden State to be winning for that to happen.
Yeah.
But if they have the lead in the fourth quarter, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see it again where Looney's closing instead of Jordan Poole. Or
how many minutes did you give Looney?
What?
How many minutes did you give Looney?
24.
Okay.
And I mean, it could be Poole over Thompson too. Like, Thompson's been dog shit this year and Poole's good, but if they're playing from ahead, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you get a closing rotation for Looney.
Neither would I. I wish I could talk about anybody else on this team, though. It's just so random. Maybe you get one guy in every lineup, but to me, there are no priorities here for Golden State.
No, not a very appealing spot. And the thing is, like, they're going to get enough ownership where I don't think I'm getting any real advantage by, like, playing Steph Curry instead of Kyrie, for example. Like, I have Kyrie going under-owned. I have Steph being, like, correctly owned. I'm just going to play more Kyrie. He projects better.
Yeah. I wish that I could say more here about Golden State. I mean, they look the same every time. If they don't have a guy out to try to shift some of this around, they're just the same thing every day. I think this one's not the same thing today. I love the Miami Heat, and I don't know if you do, so let's talk about it. Butler, Bam, Lowry, Hero. We know the main 4 guys here. They are the same as Golden State. 16, 18, 18, 16, 13, 50. Just flat ownership across the board on the DK side. We're seeing Jimmy Butler get to 27% on FanDuel. We're seeing Caleb Martin get to 32. That seems a little excessive to me. Bam's 25% owned, gets that power forward eligibility. What do you like most here? Because I feel like your answer is nothing. And then I guess I'll dig into it once you tell me.
I mean, my answer is Bam. I think he looks good. 7,400 on DraftKings. He's
Yeah.
averaging 35 minutes per game this year. Rates are down a bit, but I still have him at 1.1 DraftKings points per minute in this spot. I like that it's a pace up spot. Like, I want to like Miami more than I do. I just don't really like their pricing all that much on DraftKings. There's guys at all of these price points I like more. So, if the slate started right now, Bam would be my highest owned guy from Miami at like 18%. My second highest owned guy would actually be $3,800 Gabe Vincent, who I gave 20 minutes to. He's just, showing up in lineups here and there as a low owned, value option. But Butler looks fine to me at 8,400, but not like any sort of a priority. Tyler Hero at 7,200, again, I think kind of correctly priced. Same goes for Lowry at 6,100. I'm not that interested in Miami right now.
Wild. Okay, so let's walk through it. What do you have Butler projected for?
Fantasy points?
Yes.
39.7 DraftKings.
Okay, we're on slightly different wavelengths. I've got 45.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So clearly liking Butler. What do you have Bam at?
38.6.
Okay, 40 and a half. We're in the same ballpark there. Kyle Lowry,
28.4.
31.5. Tyler Hero, 36 and a half.
33.5.
Okay. So I'm just, 3, 4, 5 points higher on every single one of these Miami guys than you.
How many minutes did you go on those guys?
36 to Butler.
Okay, I went 35.
Okay. 34 to Bam.
I went 35.
33 to Lowry.
34 to Lowry.
33 to Hero.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think the pace up spot is huge. I think the defensive matchup could be interesting. Little apprehensive if you do get a little bit more loony, because then you get a much better defensive matchup. But last Thursday, I got a lot of Miami. That worked out for me. Hopefully they can run that back again with tons of Butler and Bam and Lowry. But this is the team for me today. I got Butler at 1.23 FanDuel points per minute. He's been at 1.16 for this season. I think the pace up spot sort of covers that increase. Bam, I just think has been shitty and isn't going to be a 0.98 guy for the whole season. I only have Lowry 0.5 of a point higher than he was. I have for this year. I have Hero 0.3 of a point ahead of that mark. I think you're a little light.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in line with their season averages, but other than Bam, who isn't going to keep doing that.
So I think that they should all be slightly higher than that because of the pace.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I agree with you, but also it's accounted for.
Well, it's not accounted for. That sounds to me like it's not accounted for if everybody's around their season averages. They should be higher than that because there's more possessions per minute.
Yeah, but I mean, like their total's still their total.
What do you mean?
Like they're projected to a 113 implied total. Like I don't care. Like it's all factored in. Like that's just how they're projecting.
If you have a 1.1, if you have a 1 fantasy point per minute rate, a massive pace up spot makes that number go up. A pace down spot will make that go down.
I understand how that works, but like there's defenses too. Like if Golden State isn't as bad as they've been, then that can also even out.
Also true. Well, it looks like you and I are going to be battling. One of us is going to run a crunch and show a bunch of Heat logos at the top. The other one isn't. I hope it goes better for me. I mean, if Gabe Vincent's your second most exposed Miami Heat guy, then I feel confident that I'm right and you're wrong.
I mean, it's not about Miami though. Like I'm getting.
I just need to make a Gabe Vincent joke.
Yeah, like I'm just playing. Karl Anthony Towns instead of Jimmy Butler. I'm playing Franz Wagner instead of Jimmy Butler. I'm playing Banchero instead of Butler.
I bet the Timberwolves wish that they went Butler over Towns as well.
I'm playing Anthony Edwards instead of Butler.
It's fair. Max Strus's minutes seem to be pretty set in stone at this point. 5,100 on DraftKings, 4,700 on FanDuel with both eligibilities. You have not said his name, so I assume he's not exactly popping up for you.
8%. He is my fourth highest owned guy on Miami. So I mean, right now my Miami exposures are number 1 Bam, number 2 Vincent, number 3 Martin, number 4 Strus. I did go ahead and bump Jimmy Butler to 36 minutes. I don't think it's going to matter too much.
It's incredible you're losing. Oh God. I'm anxious to see where I end up on this, and if any changes happen throughout the day where you're like, yo, by the way, I am getting all the Miami now.
I mean, it's entirely possible. Right now, I actually would have literally zero Jimmy Butler.
I have 150% in the aggregate on FanDuel of all of these guys. 43
to be clear,
of
I'm
Butler.
obviously talking DraftKings where he's power forward only.
Sure. 43 of Butler on FanDuel, 28 of Bam, 20 of Lowry, Hero, Strus, and Martin. We are very different people today. Anything else for the Miami Heat? I don't even think you wanted to talk about the Miami Heat at all.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I mean, I agree with you. It's a good spot, and I'm not comfortable that I'm not getting there. But I also just think the pricing is mostly where it should be.
When we get to Minnesota and I don't have those guys and you do, that's our matchup today.
Yeah,
because like I don't have Minnesota. I thought Minnesota looked bad when I did them this morning in process.
Yeah, and I don't have a ton of Minnesota. I just
okay.
have more of them. I have more of their good players than Miami, particularly Towns and Edwards. But I mean, it's mostly for me. I'm just getting so much exposure to Oklahoma City, which is not what I want to happen.
We will get there in a second. Prize Picks, though, presenting sponsor of this show. If you click the link in the description of the video, head on over to Prize Picks, make a deposit. They will match that deposit up to $100. You're picking player props, over-unders. Hit 5 on one card, you'll net up to 10x your entry fee. You can put those together based in different sports. We've got MMA and tennis, soccer, highlight. We're going to look at NBA for right now. We're going to look at points props. I'm taking you straight to the Miami Heat because we just talked about them. I don't have a choice. It's just right here. Jimmy Butler over under 23.5.
Under.
I have 22.5, so I would also take the under, but that is interesting to me. Bam Adebayo 18.5.
Over.
I would also take the over there, but barely. I have 18.9.
I have 20 on Bam and 20 on Butler.
Do you have 20 on Hero?
18.5.
19.5 is the line on Tyler Hero. And then Kyle Lowry, like he doesn't participate in the offense.
12.5.
Let's hit two more that I think are important. Nikola Vucevic, over under 17.5.
I'm at 17.9.
I'm at 19.2. So give me some Vooch. And then just
What's
as like a
rebounding prop, by the way?
That's a good question.
You have it in front of
you? If they have it, I will. They don't have it. I can get it from DraftKings if you want me to.
No, it doesn't matter. I can look it up.
3-point difference between Durant and Kyrie. Durant at 30.5, Kyrie at 27.5.
Over on both. Bigger over on Kyrie.
Okay. Yeah, I have a much bigger over on Kyrie. I have over on both as well. I basically have them scoring the exact same today.
I have 34 for KD and just shy of 31 for Kyrie.
Okay. I probably have KD a little under projected. I'm going to have to look into him in a second. But anyway, guys, please sign up at Prize Picks using that link in the description so you guys can get up to $100 on that first deposit. Let's go to Orlando and OKC. Orlando,
By the way, I just pulled it up. Miami on FanDuel for me still doesn't look great, but they certainly look better. Like I have Jimmy Butler looking better there. I have Bam looking better. Hero marginal. So I do think I'll get to more Miami on FanDuel than DraftKings.
Okay. Only big piece of news here for Orlando is that Jalen Suggs is questionable. We're not going to see Cole Anthony for a while. Torn oblique, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun at all. If Suggs is back, do you think he starts? Because my assumption is no.
My assumption is yes, but I have no idea.
Okay. I don't think he's playing more than like 24 minutes today, regardless.
If he starts, I'm giving him 28.
Okay. Barring hearing anything clearly.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know that he's having a lot of problems with these ankles. It's the same problem that he had last year as well. It seems like it's going to be something they have to manage. Hasn't been able to play in 5 games. I just feel like they want to treat him with kid gloves at this point. Shouldn't matter because
that's my assumption. But then, like, if he starts, I don't know that they are. And I don't really care either. He's 5,900 on DraftKings.
Yeah, that does help. It shouldn't matter much at all. 5K on FanDuel. Let's talk about the key piece here, which is based on ownership, Wendell Carter Jr. But Paolo Banchero, 7,900 on DraftKings, power forward eligible, 8,500 on FanDuel. best projected guy for Orlando, that's for sure. Just so much usage.
Yeah, looks great. Even if you look at his numbers like with Cole Anthony on, which I'm using, I think you can use as a proxy for Jalen Suggs, because it is kind of difficult to project Orlando right now because like you've had Anthony in and Suggs out, and then Suggs in and whatever. But if you assume Suggs plays and you use the rates with Cole Anthony, you still get a just shy of like a 30% usage rate for Banchero. Overall this year, he's even higher than that. He looks fantastic to me. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. If the slate started right now, he'd be my fourth highest owned guy. Actually tied for third with Vooch, behind O'Neal and Simmons, which sounds like a lot of fun. But yeah, like absolutely love Banchero here. And if he's only going to get 21% ownership, to me, that seems pretty light. And I really want to get there. I think that's another reason why I'm just not getting Jimmy Butler on DraftKings. Banchero's power forward only, Butler's power forward only. Banchero's $500 less expensive, and I have him projected like a point or two higher. So at similar ownership. So I'm just going to get a lot more Banchero the way it looks right now.
That makes sense. By the way, Vooch, 11.5 rebounds, minus 130 to the over.
Okay, I have him at 12.5.
I think Franz looks fine. 6,500 on both sites, but he gets extra eligibility on FanDuel. 25% owned on FanDuel, 18 on DraftKings. I don't have much to add. That all just seems like correct.
Yeah, I'm like double the field right now on Wagner, but I think that's probably just like a positional thing as well. 6,500 is just going to fit into a lot of lineups. Small forward isn't the best position. I have him at like 33.5 DraftKings points. So just, I think pretty fairly priced, but just easy to fit into lineups and not getting a ton of ownership. So it makes him look pretty good right now.
Most popular play here is Wendell Carter. Maybe not so on DraftKings. 6,800, 20% owned, just looks good. 6,400 on FanDuel, also has the power forward eligibility. 40% owned and completely deserved to me. That price tag works. If you're able to get him at power forward as well, it just opens up so much on this slate.
Yeah, agreed. Carter looks good to me, but I am getting less of him right now than Banchero and Wagner. He's getting the most ownership. I think that should be Banchero. But yeah, I'm getting right around the field on Carter right now.
Well, the guy that I'm curious to get your thoughts on would fit in the Gabe Vincent mold. Are you getting any Chuma Okeke? 3,600 on DraftKings, mostly unowned, 6%. Very much unowned at 3,900 on FanDuel. He is my Gabe Vincent.
I am not, but I think the bench guys for Orlando depends really heavily on Jalen Suggs. Mo Bamba is another one. Like he's getting 12% ownership on DraftKings right now. I have Bamba playing like 8 minutes if Suggs is in. But if Suggs is out, I think you're getting full backup center run from Bamba at 3,500, and he'll look like a good value. Similarly with Okeke, I have him playing like 15 or 16 minutes right now. But if Suggs is out, I think he plays more. So, I could get to him.
So I have Okeke at 24 with Suggs in.
What do you have Bowl at?
27.
Okay, so I have Bowl at 24. I give Hampton 20. I basically made Hampton the backup to Suggs.
Okay, so I only gave Hampton 12. I gave more minutes to Okeke over Hampton.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. I guess they could stagger Suggs and Wagner. Or just, bring Suggs off the bench.
I don't think they want to play RJ Hampton if Suggs is in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable.
Like, it gets tight. Like, I mean, Chuma Okeke was a much more real part of the rotation in the Cole Anthony games.
Right.
Over RJ Hampton. But I gave him 24. Maybe that's a little aggressive, but he becomes pretty interesting to me. He's not bad. I mean, he's been bad, but he's like a 0.85 guy normally. That's intriguing to me as a value option here for Orlando. I don't have a great feel for this team at all. Like, I'm not going to get to Bamba. I'm not going to get to Harris or Hampton, so I don't really worry about those guys too much.
If Suggs is out, I'm getting the Bamba.
Oh, yeah. 3,500 on DraftKings, very different story. 4,700 on FanDuel. I will never get to Bamba in that case.
Yeah, agreed.
Are you getting the Bowl? 4%
Not
off.
at 5,700.
Yeah. 5,800 just a center on FanDuel is awful.
Yeah. Small forward, power forward now on DraftKings. So that's nice. If Suggs is out, I think you can get there because I assume Bowl will start again. But if Suggs is back, so I guess actually it doesn't even. If Bowl is starting, I think you can get there. If he goes back to the bench, it becomes difficult for me to give him enough minutes.
Hopefully we get that news early for Suggs because it is a very complicated trickle down for Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, the slate starts at 7:30 instead of 7.
Yeah. We might get that right at 7:30, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Anything else for Orlando?
They didn't play yesterday, so maybe we'll get shoot around news at least.
Will be helpful. OKC, all things Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 9,400 on DraftKings, 10-8 on FanDuel. I'm honestly surprised to see him only be 23% owned on DK. I love that price tag. He's just exceptional without Giddey around, but I don't even know where else to go here. Dort, Mann, Poku, Jalen Williams, Darius Baisley, all double digits in ownership. Aaron Wiggins plays big minutes, single digits in ownership. Might be the most interesting GPP version of anybody for OKC. I'm getting to all of these dudes, and I don't like it at all.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm getting to quite a bit. My 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th highest owned guys on DraftKings right now would all be from Oklahoma City. And that scares me. But at the same time, they're pretty cheap. They do have a 110 implied total here. This game could get really weird. I was talking to you before the show. I'm pretty sure this is the matchup last year where I like half jokingly on a show said that if this game was competitive down the stretch, you might see some really weird rotations to try and lose. And then it was like a 1-point game and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just never came back in. Josh Giddey just never came back in. I can't do anything with that, but it does scare me. It scares me anytime I'm playing Oklahoma City. It especially scares me when they're playing a team that they could very easily be competing with for a worst record by the end of the year. But SGA looks great to me at 9,400. I'm with you. Just like Banchero, I don't think he's getting enough ownership. It's going to make him get into a lot of lineups for me. I have around 40% right now. Jalen Williams looks like a good value. He's really difficult to really know what to do with, but we did see him as the first guy off the bench in the first game of the season. Then he broke his eye or whatever. Now he came back and I figured he'd firmly be in the rotation, but I didn't know he was just going to come right out and play 26, 27 minutes. I gave him 26 minutes again today. Could be more, could be less. I don't really know. I didn't want to go higher than that. But at 3,900, that's still getting him into like half of my lineups. So he looks really good. Pokusevski started last game. No idea if he'll start today. They've been kind of just rotating centers. But if he does at 4,200, that looks like a pretty good value option. Trey Mann, 5,300, averaging about 28 minutes per game. But we had talked about it before. He is having his minutes staggered with SGA while Giddey is out. So that brings his rates up a bit. The playing time is the concern. Last game he played like 22 minutes for no real reason. But at the same time, you can get games where he plays north of 30. So projecting him for 28 minutes makes him look good. Lou Dort, same thing, gave him 32 minutes, 21% usage rate guy, give or take. Like, I'm just getting to all 5 of those guys a lot.
You and me both. Do you have Popcorn Machine up for Oklahoma City's most recent game?
I can.
Look at Isaiah Joe.
Wasn't he like plus $1 million in like 5 minutes?
He played 9 minutes. He wasn't a part of the rotation. He played the end of the fourth quarter and overtime and is the reason that they beat Dallas.
Yeah. And that kind of scares me because that's the kind of thing where like a team like this will just be like, oh, you deserve to be in the rotation today. And
yeah. I gave him those 9 minutes again because like I don't know what to do with the Eugene Omoyuri, Isaiah Joe.
So I would give him 0.
There you go. I'm just naming the guys at the bottom of their list. Jang, Omoyuri, Waters, the other Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe. Like one of those guys is going to play like a rotation. I don't know who the hell it's going to be.
No, but they won't because Waters is out, Omoyuri is out. Oh, Jang is back, so it could be him.
Yeah. It's just like they've got this random list of 10 through 15 where like they're just picking and choosing these dudes.
Yeah, I gave 6 minutes to Isaiah Joe. I gave 9 to Robinson Earl. I gave 12 to Muscala. Yeah. Are you getting Darius Baisley? Because I'm getting like 7%, but we haven't projected for 15.
I gave him 20 minutes. If at the 16% ownership, he showed up in my DraftKings sim 9% of the time, so I have him pretty significantly over-owned. And then on FanDuel, he's 4,700, so I'm just not getting there.
Yeah, okay. Same boat.
Stephen Leibowitz, Giddey is out
on all of the expected starters. Well, no, 4 of the expected starters and Jalen Williams. Oh, and Giddey, I guess technically I'm overweight on Wiggins too, but I don't have a lot.
SGA is 10-8 on FanDuel, so I'm not getting that. Like, I'm still getting them way more Kyrie in that case because of the price tag. So not as interesting on FanDuel. You want to close this one out? Minnesota, Phoenix?
Yeah.
Wolves are 5-point dogs in Phoenix, 228 total. Pace down spot for Minnesota. 16% ownership going to Edwards, 16 to Towns, 10 to Russell, 10 to Gobert. Nothing else really coming in. Pretty much similar on the FanDuel side. I didn't get to double digits on anyone from Minnesota. I think Edwards is like properly owned. Talk to me about your boy Karl Anthony Towns.
He's only getting 15% ownership at 8,800 with power forward center eligibility on DraftKings. Just looks good. I have him projected ahead of Butler, as I mentioned. Rebounding rate is around 12% this year, but usage rate 27%, 22.5% assist percentage. I just think he looks good. He's averaging 1.18 DraftKings points per minute, not 1.8, but I have him a bit higher than that today. So yeah, he's just showing up as a really good play for me.
I got him at 1.21, so I guess it's not as if I'm in a different level here for you, but most I got on the FanDuel side is 9% of Edwards. I am ultra light on Minnesota because I'm ultra heavy on Phoenix. I think the Minnesota side is pretty easy to talk about. Like if McLaughlin or Anderson aren't in, I don't think that really matters for. I mean, like it makes you probably feel a little bit better about Jalen Noel, but he's already 5K, so like there's not a lot to squeeze out of that any longer.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel better about projecting Jalen Noel's minutes if those guys are out, but I also don't think I end up playing a lot of him at 5K anyway.
And then like I just if Anderson isn't playing, then you get a couple more minutes for Naz Reid. If McLaughlin's not playing, you just get minutes for Bryn Forbes. Like I don't think the status of those two guys is going to matter all that much. I think Minnesota's really easy to talk about. You play their starters and that's it.
Pretty much, yeah. And for me, it's, getting to Towns, getting to Edwards. I'm around the field on Gobert. I'm not even really getting to Russell or McDaniels.
Same. I have 4% of Russell on FanDuel at 7,500. I do have 8% of McDaniels at 5,100 on FanDuel, but not that I feel great about it. I'm getting to the Phoenix side. Phoenix playing the role of Miami in this one, in the giant pace up spot. Booker's 20% owned on DraftKings. Bridges is close to it. Paul's 20% owned on DraftKings. Cam Johnson's pretty close to it. On FanDuel, these guys were ridiculous. 28% ownership to Booker, 28 to Bridges, 41 to Chris Paul, 34 to Cam Johnson, and then this one's the easy one to me. 15% to Bismack Biyombo, who's set here to play 28 to 30 minutes. He's 7% owned on DraftKings. Is he appropriately priced? Yes. But if he's owned like this, I want Bismack Biyombo today.
How many minutes did you give him?
I gave him 28. I thought about giving him 30.
Okay, I went 26, 22.
I mean, he was set to play 30 in the last one. Just straight up normal old starter rotation.
Yeah, 28-20 could work.
Because he lost for foul trouble in the second quarter. He closed fully, like left with the starters and did everything normal. Every rotation was just like exactly what you would expect out of a starter.
Yeah. And they used him that way last year quite a bit too.
Yeah. So at 28 minutes, I'm doubling him up on FanDuel. I think he's just going to look good in comparison to everybody else that's out there right now. Happy to get there, but I have this whole team. I got 30% Booker. I got 50% Paul. I got 40% Cam Johnson, 20% of Bridges. I want the whole starting five.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Like right now, I'm not getting a ton of it. I do think I'll get more Biyombo when I rerun things because I think I was a little bit light and I was getting like 20-something% Landale in 22 minutes. So I think some of that will just turn into Biyombo. Right now, I'm like half the field on Devin Booker. Again, not a spot that I'm confident in. But I'm just playing, more Irving, more SGA. Has to come from somewhere. Chris Paul at 7,700, kind of the same thing. I am not really getting there. I won't be upset if I do, but I just have a lot of guard exposure going to those guys, going to Trey Mann. So Phoenix kind of just taking a hit for me.
And then I don't have anything else for the bench here. I do kind of have interest in like trying to massage it so that I can get to some Jock Landale, but he is 4,800 on FanDuel, a little bit more difficult to try to do. And then I don't need Payne or Lee or Shamet or Torrey Craig or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the center spot on DraftKings is really interesting with Biyombo at 5,500 and Landale at 5K because they're both solid point per minute guys. And so like if you get the 28 to 30 minutes from Biyombo, I think he looks good. If Landale plays anywhere north of 20, I think he looks good. And you're just not really getting ownership coming to either guy.
Yeah, I would want to take a stand on at least one of them. If neither of them are happening, like hope for the best there. Because if you project them too neutrally and it ends up like you end up getting the public ownership. That's not really helpful either.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, if I give Landale 20 minutes, I have him at like just shy of 23 DraftKings points. At no ownership, he's probably going to show up a little bit for me.
Sure.
And then Biyombo, if I give him 28 minutes, I get him at like 28 DraftKings points, which is going to look good at very little ownership.
Anything else you want to touch on here before we turn it over to the NFL show?
No, I think that's it.
I hope we get a little bit of news. I hope we get Suggs news by the time you and I come back for the deeper dive at 5:30. But make sure you're watching us later tonight. Again, 5:30, deeper dive, myself and Adam. 6:30, you'll get NBA Live before lock. I'm going to do my contenders videos right now. You're going to get Adam's tournament plays. Don't know if there's an injury report video today, but tournament plays for sure. Anything else?
There will be an injury report video, thanks to Jalen Suggs and Iota Sumu.
There we go. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to Prize Picks for being the presenting sponsor. Good luck tonight. Hit the like button on your way out the door. Thank you for being here. We'll talk to you later.